FBI. We have a warrant. You need to come to the front door with your hands up.
British boxing champion Anthony Joshua is recovering after being involved in a deadly car crash in Nigeria. Local authorities say Joshua sustained minor bruising in Monday's crash. The crash comes just days after Joshua won a big match against Jake Paul.
Grimacing in pain, Anthony Joshua is pulled from the wreckage of a crumpled SUV, having narrowly escaped death.
So here's what just happened, and it's sending shockwaves everywhere. Jake Paul's name has now been pulled into the fallout surrounding the horrific car crash that nearly killed Anthony Joshua. The boxing world is spiraling over it. This all comes just days after Joshua dismantled him in the ring. Then, out of nowhere, a deadly crash in Nigeria takes the lives of 2 people from Joshua's inner circle. Now reports say Jake Paul is being questioned by federal authorities as investigators try to piece together what really happened. When a global champion survives, his closest people die, and the fighter who just got humiliated suddenly ends up under scrutiny, people stop calling it coincidence and start calling it something else.
Former world heavyweight champion visibly in pain as he is helped from the wreckage after this horror crash that killed 2 people. Anthony Joshua was injured and taken to hospital.
What was meant to be a low-key post-fight trip quickly turned into a nightmare. Late at night, a luxury SUV carrying Joshua and his team was suddenly destroyed. One moment, everything was normal. Social media posts, laughter, celebration. The next, the scene turned catastrophic. Emergency lights flooded the darkness, debris covered the road, and 2 lives were lost in an instant.
He was travelling in, hit a stationary truck on a busy highway in Nigeria. The British boxer is on holiday in Africa following his win over American boxer Jake Paul.
What's really unsettling people is how normal everything seemed right before it happened. Joshua wasn't even driving. He was riding as a passenger. The vehicle was top tier. The route was familiar, traveled countless times by the people inside. There were no warning signs. Then, without explanation, everything collapsed into deadly chaos. Officials point to speed and loss of control, but information keeps coming out in fragments. Those gaps in the timeline feel uncomfortable, and every missing detail leaves room for more questions than answers.
Photos that have emerged online that show him sitting behind the driver's seat with his top off, surrounded with glass, broken glass.
That's when the internet truly unraveled. A superstar walks away with barely a scratch while 2 loyal members of his team die instantly. The timing is impossible to ignore, right after a massive high-stakes fight that shattered egos and reshaped careers. People stopped viewing this as a random accident. The official statements felt quiet, restrained, almost buried beneath a wave of unanswered questions no one seemed eager to confront directly.
The crash happened on December 29, 2025, on the Lagos-Ibadan motorway near Makun in Ogun State, a stretch of road known for deadly accidents.
It'd be crazy if all of the fighters who fight Jake Paul end up befalling some sort of terrible
Then one comment changed everything. Jake Paul reportedly said that Joshua didn't stick to the plan. That single sentence detonated online. Some brushed it off as typical trash talk. Others heard something far darker. Suddenly, the focus shifted away from boxing. People dissected the words, the timing, the tone, trying to understand what he really meant and why he said it when he did.
As news broke, shock rippled through Joshua's hometown community in Nigeria. Adamamala Joshua, the uncle of Anthony Joshua's father, said the news came as a great shock.
Definitely, it was a shock for us. So he has been coming. At least he comes not less than 3-4 times in a year. So that was not the first time of his coming home. So he comes regularly. I flies that road regularly. So they are very conversant with that road. So it was a great shock.
That's when things spiraled. Screenshots flooded timelines. Old interviews resurfaced. Forgotten clips and heated pre-fight exchanges were stitched together into something bigger than a rivalry. Analysts began asking why that comment surfaced at that exact moment, and why it sounded less like hype and more like frustration slipping through the cracks.
It's that of great love for this man, because he's a man of the people. He's very close to the grassroots. It's not the type that goes about with security guard when it comes around. All the people are very close to him, and he too is very free among the people. So
Once that idea took hold, speculation didn't just grow, it exploded. The crash, the silence, the comment, the timing, everything blurred together into one massive question dominating social media. Was this just reckless talk from a bruised ego, or the first crack in a story that was never supposed to leave the ring?
Joshua was in Nigeria following his knockout victory over YouTuber turned boxer Jake Paul less than a fortnight ago, who posted online saying he's praying for those who lost their lives and for his former adversary. Joshua posted this on Instagram playing table tennis with Latif Ayodele just hours before the incident.
This is where logic gives way to perception. When enough strange outcomes seem to orbit the same names, coincidence stops feeling random to the audience watching. Medical scares, financial chaos, careers derailing overnight. Each event different on paper, but emotionally connected in the same online narrative. Proof stopped mattering. What mattered was the feeling, and social media thrives on that feeling.
He was travelling in, collided with a stationary truck pictured here in photos taken by the authorities. After his latest victory, what should have been a moment of celebration has instead become one of tragedy.
That's the dangerous part. Once people believe there's a pattern, every new incident feels inevitable. Official explanations start sounding rehearsed. Denials arrive too late to slow the momentum. At that point, facts no longer control the story, the narrative does. And right now, that narrative has convinced a lot of people this goes far deeper than one crash or one fight.
Gamu, which is where Joshua has relatives. Of course, he fought 10 days ago in Miami, and he was heading home to Nigeria, where he was brought up, or he went to boarding school anyway, for the new year.
Right after the crash, something unsettling began to unfold. When a global fight generates tens of millions of dollars and involves international logistics, private security, digital contracts, and massive public rivalries, any serious incident tied to it instantly becomes bigger than sports. That's the line where entertainment ends and federal attention begins.
Everybody shouts, Anthony Joshua, me too, I go there. Everybody just they do picture. So many everybody no shouting, say they no loud down. So some people loud down, every say, they will see star, they no go.
Quietly, word started circulating about timelines, private communications, and business consequences directly linked to the fight's outcome. These are details fans never see, but investigators always examine. This was no longer about what happened in the ring. It was about everything that happened around the fight, after the final bell, and because of how it ended. As those questions surfaced, both investigators and industry insiders noticed Jake Paul's name appearing uncomfortably close to the timeline.
Within hours, social media users revived a bizarre theory, one that has circulated before, now being called the Jake Paul curse.
This is where the story takes a sharp turn into something much larger. Because this wasn't just about boxing. It was about money, serious money. The fight represented a massive financial ecosystem of guaranteed purses, performance bonuses, endorsement deals, betting exposure, and future contracts that shifted instantly when the final bell rang. When one side suffers a major loss, that ripple effect becomes contractual, and contracts create pressure far beyond public view.
Fighters who defeat Jake Paul later suffer serious misfortune. Joshua's crash, coming days after his victory over Paul, reignited the theory and pushed it into viral territory.
Behind the scenes, conversations reportedly shifted from celebration to damage control almost overnight. Sponsors reassessed brand risk. Insurance companies reviewed policy language. Business partners quietly questioned whether any part of the fallout could increase their exposure. That's when timelines get scrutinized. Messages get preserved. Conversations that happened away from cameras suddenly become critical pieces of a larger puzzle.
Crazy, if Mike Tyson almost died before the fight, he had 8 blood transfusions, lost half his blood from a bleeding ulcer in the hospital for weeks. Obviously today, it'd be crazy if Anthony Joshua was involved in a fatal car crash where 2 of...
That's why people stopped treating the crash as an isolated tragedy. Once financial stakes collide with reputational damage, coincidences feel less innocent. The focus shifts away from what happened in the ring and toward one uncomfortable question. Who was carrying the biggest losses when everything went sideways?
Gets into a car accident, 2 people die right after Jake Paul said he didn't follow the script. I'm kind of lost. What script? Was it just boxing or was there something else going on?
Even after official statements were released, the story didn't fade, it grew. Video clips, screenshots, old interviews, and offhand comments resurfaced at remarkable speed, each reframed to fit a narrative that felt bigger than any single event. Every new piece of content added fuel, stretching the timeline in both directions until the crash sat at the center of something far larger. What made this especially dangerous was how quickly public opinion locked in. Once people decided the sequence felt wrong, every update was filtered through suspicion. Routine explanations sounded scripted. Silence only made curiosity louder. The internet stopped waiting for answers and started writing its own version in real time.
Reaction there out of Jake Paul, but when he gets caught with his hands down and his chin served on a platter for that right hand right there. And look at Jake Paul's face. He knew it right away. He said, woo!
Hey guys, I'm okay.
That's when the situation crossed into genuinely dangerous territory. A story driven by momentum becomes immune to correction because momentum feeds on doubt. With every passing hour, the question grew louder. How do one fight, one crash, and one name remain so tightly connected without something deeper tying it together? At that point, concern wasn't limited to social media. It spread into the industry itself. Promoters went quiet. Fighters stopped joking. Public figures became cautious or said nothing at all. Everyone understood the same thing at once. Stories like this don't disappear cleanly. They leave lasting damage, even if no charges are ever filed.
The Union Jack flag alongside the Nigerian flag when Anthony Joshua fights. He's often spoken so proudly about his Nigerian heritage and his right shoulder. There's often a tattoo of an Africa flag with Nigeria map inscribed in there. So when it comes to Nigeria, Anthony Joshua is very proud of his heritage. He's often seen visiting the country.
Industry insiders began worrying about the fallout spreading further. Fights were left in limbo. Sponsorships quietly entered review. Legal teams stepped in early, not because anything had been proven, but because uncertainty itself became a business liability. In boxing, perception can cost more than losing a fight. And at that moment, perception was toxic. That's why this phase became bigger than the crash, bigger than the comments, bigger than the theories. Because once a story reaches this level, careers don't wait for verdicts. They react to pressure, and that pressure was already tightening by the hour.
Comfort, but according to police anyway, they are minor injuries and he is fine. But the family are saying that they are shocked by what's happened. And there was a brief statement, we're hoping for his speedy recovery, they say, and also the people who sadly passed away.
This is where the story crossed from speculation into belief. What began as an internet joke hardened into something people treated as fact. Patterns were drawn. Names were linked. Every misfortune tied to a former opponent got pulled into one continuous narrative with Jake Paul placed at the center. Content creators leaned fully into it. The repetition alone made coincidence feel intentional. Medical scares, financial collapses, personal breakdowns. Each situation different on paper, but emotionally fused into a single storyline. At that point, evidence stopped mattering. Familiarity took over, and familiarity creates certainty in online spaces.
Adding that he was praying for Anthony Joshua, the victims, and everyone affected.
Once that belief system locks in, it becomes self-sustaining. Every new headline feeds it. Every denial deepens suspicion. Every silence gets twisted into confirmation. That's when a theory no longer needs proof, because the audience has already decided the pattern feels real and feelings outweigh facts in real time. So the question remains, did the internet build a conspiracy out of genuine tragedy? Or did this fight trigger a chain reaction so explosive that silence became the safest option for everyone involved?